Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well. After a great weekend here, it was week one of the NFL season. It continues tonight in Las Vegas, where the Las Vegas Raiders will host the Baltimore Ravens in the first game with fans at Allegiant Stadium. And I'm very much looking forward to this matchup. Baltimore decimated by injuries. We'll get into that, but this weekend there was a lot going on. College football, we had tennis, which really was a big headline. I've been talking about a lot in the podcast. Baseball, the Blue Jays are in a wild card spot. The San Francisco Giants continue to dominate the league, but the NFL returned in a full slate. I talked yesterday with Adam Beers about the season, about the game Thursday night, but today, and really Mondays going forward here in the podcast, because there's so much material after an NFL Sunday. Mondays are really going to be for the NFL. On Wednesday, I'm going to keep doing my shows with Seamus. On Tuesday, Wednesdays, I will incorporate some of the events from the weekend. So things like college football. I will touch on Layla Annie Fernandez later in the week, because I think that's such an interesting story. But football is, that's what I watched yesterday from, I talked about it with Adam at noon, and I watched it last night until almost 12:30, and it was riveting. And just off the bat, before we dive into the games, if anybody hasn't bought in Game Pass, I highly recommend it. I can't believe I haven't done it yet in my 23 years of life, but I bought Game Pass bought it for myself for my birthday. And I had my TV going and the computer simultaneously. And I was trying to watch as many games as I possibly could. I'll tell you, it's a lot for sure. You do pick 4 or 5 games that you kind of focus in on. I plan to I plan to watch the Houston-Jacksonville game later this week, because I want to see Trevor Lawrence. I know his statistics, but I want to see how he played, and I'll talk about that on Wednesday's show. Hopefully I can get into that and talk about that later in the week as we head into week 2. But yeah, Game Pass. Today's going to be talking about the NFL. And normally in sports, when there's a big game, when there's expectations for something to be riveting, it normally just isn't that. Our expectations are like, that was okay. Super Bowls. I think of my livelihood there have been more lackluster to bad Super Bowls than good ones in the last couple of years. I think the Eagles and Patriots was a good Super Bowl. Contrary to popular belief, I think the Rams Patriots was a good Super Bowl. A lot of people hated that game because it was all defense. I loved it. Doesn't have to be 50-45 for me to enjoy a game. But last year, Chiefs, Bucks wasn't really that entertaining to me. The Patriots Super Bowls are entertaining-ish. I think the game is an 0-4 against Carolina. But my big picture here is big games are often not what you think they're going to be. Stanley Cup Finals aren't that riveting all that much. First round series are better more often than not. So we get week 1. The Cleveland Browns, the upstart Cleveland Browns, who are out of that phase of, we're rebuilding. We drafted Baker first overall, and we're still retooling. No, that's over for the Cleveland Browns. It's no longer the dog pound, the walkover team of the AFC North. The Cleveland Browns are a Super Bowl contender, playing the team in the last 3 seasons who have gone to an AFC championship game, Super Bowl, won it against San Francisco, lost the Super Bowl last year, the Buccaneers. That means 3 years in a row they've been at least in the AFC championship game. This is something the Cleveland Browns are striving to do. And yesterday's best game on the slate was the best game. And the 5 o'clock games were much better than 2 o'clock. However, this game had everything you'd want. great quarterback play, great coaching, interesting run concepts, turnovers, a massive blunder that cost the team a game, and of course, Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes type things. But I looked through this whole game, and I guess it's easier just to go through, the winner. Obviously, Kansas City won the game. Last year, I was still trying to figure out how to do this. There might be times that I go through the game step by step. I don't think that's really necessary. I think talking to you guys watch games, talking to you about the big events is where it's at right now. So Cleveland loses the game. And there's two really key plays of this game that people will remember. Number one, Cleveland was aggressive the whole game, which I loved, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But the one time they have to punt in the fourth quarter, Jamie Gillian with the long hair, Joe Cool, okay, I'm a punter from Australia. Okay, you get the ball. One play the entire game. The rest are sitting on the bench drinking Gatorade. Gets the ball, muffs it. Can't loses control of it. He picks it up, tackle at his own 15, results in a Travis Kelce touchdown. That was the game. Cleveland had it. They had it. And, it was absolutely incredible that, a muffed punt cost the team a game. And it did. It absolutely did. Because they get the ball at the 15. Patrick Mahomes has the ball at your own 15 late in the game. He has come back from 10-point deficits now 10 times in his career, Patrick Mahomes. Brady-esque. And that play cost him the game. I credit Chris Jones on the play before that for sacking him. So at least you're going to get a 3-and-out. And you could argue, well, Kansas City's going to get the ball and go down the field. Okay. However, I do think I like their defense. Wasn't great yesterday. John Johnson had his good moments. He got torched by Tyreek Hill a lot. Denzel Ward had his good moments against Tyreek and bad moments as well. The deep ball down the field by Patrick Mahomes is a key example of that. But you go from a 29-27 lead, and the Cleveland Browns team strength is the team. There are teams in the NFL where the team isn't that great, but they have individuals who are. The Cleveland Browns are a strong team. That is their strength. They are built to win because they are deep, because they have great players at every position. John Johnson, Denzel Ward, Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, all these guys included. Their makeup is on offense and defense because their team is so strong. And in that moment, I would have loved to see that defense get a chance to get a stop. And they needed one, and they didn't get it. Cleveland gets the ball back, 1:09 remaining. Baker's under pressure for one of the few times in the game. Again, he got sacked in the prior drive by Chris Jones, but the offensive line did a pretty good job of protecting him. They get him by the legs. He's about to have his knee touch the ground. They have one timeout remaining. He throws it in the air, trying to get out of bounds. Yeah, it's intercepted by Neiman. That's the ball game. And intercepted by Mike Hughes, and that's ball game. They run out the clock. Kansas City gets a home victory. Mahomes is now 11-0 in September in his career. Now, takeaways beyond this. Kansas City wins the game. They were the favorite to win. I thought Cleveland would win yesterday. So obviously I was wrong, but I mentioned there was a lot of great moments of that game yesterday. And great coaching cannot be overlooked. Because from the opening drive, Kevin Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns head coach, knew what he had to do. Against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, You cannot settle for field goals. He went on 4th down on the opening drive. I loved it. The Kansas City Chiefs defense is not that great. It can be had. We saw that a lot. Baker Mayfield had 4 throws of over 30-plus yards yesterday, 30-plus yard gains yesterday. That means you can throw it over the top of this defense. And when you have those situations and you're close to the red zone, you go for it against Kansas City. And yesterday, even in a defeat, it should be an example to every team out there. We need to play to win, not to lose. I know that sounds really simple, but what's common sense? Oh, we'll just punt in this situation. No. When you are in opposing territory, you might as well turn the ball over because give up 3 points, then Mahomes will get 7. Then you get another 3, then it's 14-6, and you're chasing the game. You need to be the driver, you need to dictate the game. And Cleveland did that from jump. I love that from Stefanski. I love the no fear attitude and Baker making key throws on 4th down when he had to. They were 4 for 4 on 3rd down yesterday. That's an impressive statistic. I like that from Stefanski. That's 1. 2 for the Cleveland Browns. Their run concepts were brilliant. You see them. They go to Anthony Schwartz on an end around. They give Jarvis Landry a carry that ended up in a touchdown where Kansas City had about 4 or 5 blown tackles on the play. You got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb, 2 rushing touchdowns. Kareem Hunt with another. The run game is still the strength of this team. You see the established run, it starts chugging, picking up yards. The bootlegs, the options, the play action plays for Baker Mayfield are there. And that's where he succeeds. Run game, then the defense has to cheat, essentially, to Nick Chubb. We can't allow him to keep getting 8 yards to carry. So you overcompensate. Baker rolls right. And then you have guys like Anthony Schwartz wide open, and Austin Hooper, David Njoku. We see this team, one of their biggest strengths is tight ends. Njoku had 76 yards receiving yesterday. Hooper had 4 catches. Harrison Bryant had a catch. And using the run game, getting more tight ends in concepts, and all their tight ends are athletic and can catch the football. They're not just, they can block and receive, which is what you want in today's NFL. But again, I love the run concept and the play action pass that was working and chewing apart this Kansas City defense. Now, another thing, even in a loss, I think this was Baker Mayfield's best game as a pro. And I saw a confident guy who was not afraid of the opposing quarterback on the other side, who threw with conviction, who did not have a touchdown pass yesterday. They had 4 rushing touchdowns, the Browns, but he had 4 passes over 30-plus yards. It was not dinking and dacking it all day. He was being aggressive. He was taking his chances. And if his punter doesn't screw up, they win the game. And that's coulda, shoulda, woulda, and nobody does that but says that more than me. So it's still a loss. But individually, I've heard forever Baker Mayfield is not an elite quarterback. Now, one game does not define a career. Aaron Rodgers played like you-know-what yesterday. But Baker Mayfield in these last year, the playoff game, week 1, he went into Arrowhead Stadium, which is not an easy place to win, and should have came away with the victory. He had 1 turnover that, okay, yeah, it's on him. He should have got the ball out of bounds, but he tried to. He was trying to salvage the clock with no timeouts for the Browns. But I love the way Baker played yesterday. And all in all, I really like what was disappointing from the Cleveland Browns standpoint is their defense. I mean, on the play that is the meme going out now that really it's called the fuck it play, where Mahomes is rolling right, almost out of bounds. He's just like, okay, I see Tyreek down there. Maybe he'll catch it, maybe not. Fuck it. And he just throws it in the air. And he's got the safety all turned around. He catches the ball at the 30-yard line. at the Cleveland 30. He runs it in for a score. That was a key play in the game. Them not doubling Travis Kelce in the red zone twice. How does that not happen? If you watched the game yesterday, you know one of my big concern I do have about Kansas City is they have two receivers. Kelce, Hill. That's it. Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman, Edwards-Helaire, they're just okay. I mean, you have two of the best in the sport, don't get me wrong. But you take away one of those weapons, if there's an injury, knock on wood, there's nothing there, but their depth is very small. They don't have a lot of depth. And, at least elite depth at that position. I don't think DeMarcus Robinson, what he's known best for is dropping balls. Mecole Hardman is a special teams player. Byron Pringle is a journeyman NFLer. Again, Blake Bell is a backup tight end who's more of a blocking guy. So, I mean, it's still Patrick freaking Mahomes. Don't get me wrong. But I that's one thing I do worry about going forward is I don't love their depth. And there's lots of injuries in the NFL. Saw already season-ending injuries today being announced, and that's problematic. But so that's one thing. But I mean, Mahomes was being Mahomes yesterday, and he did Mahomes type things. But overall, a great game. And for the Cleveland Browns, they got Houston coming up. And this sounds counterintuitive, but my only worry about the Cleveland Browns offense is Baker Mayfield rejoining the offense. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Baker Mayfield's a Pro Bowl receiver. He's great. Why wouldn't you want him back? I'll tell you why. Because Baker is best when he's spreading the ball around. Anthony Schwartz, the rookie out of Auburn, who I think is going to be really good, should have made a catch on a third down late in the game yesterday, but he's a rookie. He's good. They should use him in the run game. I like him. I liked him at Auburn. I mentioned the tight ends, Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Baker's a guy who's not going to throw 10 passes to a guy, but 3 or 4 to everybody. It's just a well-oiled machine. He'll throw some passes to his running backs. Where Odell Beckham Jr., maybe he's changed, but I haven't seen this over his career. He's a me receiver. I want my touches. I want my looks. I need the ball. And in the past, Baker forced the ball to Odell instead of just going through his reads. And it ended up being an interception or an incomplete pass on a 3rd and 5 that should have been picked up. And I would feel better if Odell wasn't coming back, if he wasn't on this roster. And maybe they'll have a great connection and he won't be a diva. He can morph into an Antonio Brown, where in Tampa, he's comfortable being in a receiver room full of great players. But I'm not convinced of that. I haven't seen it over his career. It's always been in New York. It was about Odell, the one-handed catch and what he can do. It needs to be by committee with this team. Run the ball, play action, receptions by committee. And I just don't know if Odell has that makeup to be a great team player. And I worry about that for Cleveland. They are my, if I had my consensus, if I was using my head just based on what I think is optimal, I would pick a Super Bowl rematch between the Bucs and the Chiefs, which never happens. But optimally, if I was just going on who I think the 2 best teams are, I would pick those 2 teams. But I didn't want to be boring. So if I had to go my non-boring pick, my Super Bowl is Cleveland and the LA Rams. And it's one game, but I think Cleveland has played 2 tight games against Kansas City in a row. And now what they have to prove, if they get to play them again later in the playoffs, is you got to prove you can beat them flat out. Being competitive is not good enough in sports. Getting to a game and then saying, well, we played that team really hard, that means nothing. That's garbage. Close the deal. For Baker, for this team, the rest of this year is getting better. You're in a tough division. You're going to have to play good football. But prove that when you get that next opportunity, whether it's in the playoffs against Kansas City, you can rise to the occasion and you can step up to the plate and be great in that moment. And we'll see what happens going forward for the Cleveland Browns. But great game, and I think the best game of the day. Let's move to so many games that caught my eye. Of course, I was watching a ton, but before the season started, I really didn't talk a lot about the Seattle Seahawks, and I didn't have a real big reason for that. Seattle, they're just Seattle. Pete Carroll's still the head coach. Russell Wilson has been there his entire career, has never had a losing record. But I said they had some turmoil in the offseason. They don't seem to be on the best terms. Maybe they'll take a step back. Yet I watched the game yesterday between Seattle on the road heading to Indianapolis, and Russell Wilson and the Seahawks look like vintage Seahawks. Great defensive plays by KJ Wright and McDowell. Breaking up plays, making life tough on Carson Wentz, quite frankly, making that Indy O-line not look too shabby. And then on the other side of the ball, you have Russell Wilson, who is throwing deep balls to Tyler Lockett, and he's spreading the ball around, making big plays. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, why didn't I talk about this team? Why aren't the Seahawks on my radar? And Russell Wilson yesterday goes 18 for 23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. 2 to Tyler Lockett, who continues to be his favorite red zone target, which is rare because normally it's a tight end for teams, but he's been one of the best red zone receivers in the NFL over the last 4 or 5 years. But he did throw in one of his 4 touchdown passes to who I think might be another of his new favorite targets, and that's Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett's a tight end with the Rams. He came over in the offseason via free agency. And Everett's a big-bodied receiver. He's hard to bring down. And he reminds me of a lot of Gronk, Aaron Hernandez, just these big tight ends that are so hard to cover in small spaces. And we've seen him. He ran a shallow cross. Russell Wilson found him over the middle. He snuck into the end zone. So now with Lockett, with DK Metcalf, they have really 2 elite receivers. You have Gerald Everett, Chris Carson, who's been banged out the last couple of years. They got to hope he can stay healthy, but he rushed great yesterday, rushing for almost 100 yards. And they win the game 28-16, a nice road victory for the Seahawks. And looking at the other side of the ball, Indy has a lot of expectations this year. And it's funny, after week 1, the Houston Texans, who have the worst record, who have the worst team on paper in the NFL, lead that division because Tennessee got destroyed by Arizona. You have Houston beat Jacksonville, and then the aforementioned Colts losing to Seattle. But early in the first half of that, Carson Wentz played really well. Bootlegs, throwing the ball down the field to, Pittman, Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, getting the run game going with Jonathan Taylor. But by the end of the game, he really was under siege. Their run game wasn't great. 17 carries for 56 yards for Jonathan Taylor. He ran for over 1,700 last year, for best for third in the NFL. That is not going to cut it. Wentz had to scramble for a number of yards. And I look, their leading receiver was Jonathan Taylor. He's not exactly the best receiving player. Paris Campbell only had 1 catch. And again, my only trepidation with the Colts is Carson Wentz. And for him to be a great quarterback, he needs lots of time. He didn't have it yesterday. The Seahawks were getting pressure on him. He was taking hits when releasing the ball, which affected the throws. He did not turn the ball over, to his credit. But at the same time, Seattle was getting, Nelson and Ryan Kelly and Glowinski. They have a great offensive line on paper, but it was not great yesterday. That Seattle D-line definitely won the battle. They'll likely not play. They won't play again this year unless it's in the Super Bowl. But they They won the war because they only play once, and they made Carson Wentz's life really tough. Russell Wilson, the offseason, complained about how many sacks he's taking and the hits. Well, for him yesterday, it was pretty much smooth sailing. He only ran the ball. He ran the ball 5 times for 9 yards. So just scrambles. Normally he runs for much more than that. It was Chris Carson. It was Rashad Penny type days for him. And this was another good game where Seattle goes on the road and wins. That's an impressive road win. And just sticking with the two divisions, the Arizona Cardinals made a statement yesterday. They went into Tennessee. Tennessee's been a playoff team the last number of years. Ryan Tannehill, great quarterback. Derrick Henry, regarded as the best pure running back in the NFL. And they kicked their behind. Kyler Murray had a terrible end to last year because he was injured. There's questions, can he throw in the pocket? We know he can run. We know he's a speedy little guy out there. But can he do more than just run the ball and throw on the run? Well, he only ran 5 times yesterday for 20 yards. He did have a rushing touchdown. What he did do was throw 4 touchdowns in the game. 2 to DeAndre Hopkins, who I still think he's the best receiver in football. Devontae Adams is great. I think A.J. Brown has emerged from the aforementioned Titans. Julio Jones is still great. But DeAndre Hopkins, he's red zone. He can make big plays. He can run any route you want him to. He's practically uncoverable. And I like him a lot. I think he's still the best. He also threw another 2 to Christian Kirk, who's really emerged as that number 2. Rondé Moore had 4 catches, the rookie, yesterday. So the Tennessee defense, which was overhauled in the offseason, did not have a good day. Tannehill turned the ball over once. They limited, in the Arizona defense, to their credit, limited Derrick Henry to 58 yards on the ground. And last year, Arizona lost key piece. They lost Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones, the former Patriot, is a force as a defensive end. And missing all of last year, he had 22.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons prior to his injury. He wants a new contract. The guy's a stud. And he put an exclamation point on week 1. And we talked about MVP yesterday. And obviously quarterbacks take center stage. But for me, if a defensive player is going to win the award, it has to be because they have a phenomenal season. Well, Chandler Jones has a great start to the season. He had 5 sacks yesterday. Going up against left tackle Taylor Lewan, it was a man against boys. 5 sacks on Ryan Tannehill, just showing people that even with his injury, he's still that bad man that he is. And just a brilliant day for him where I love to see it. A guy just go around the edge, shove Taylor Lewan to the side, and he just made life miserable on Tannehill. So as a team, you have Kyler, who he threw a touchdown deep ball to Hopkins in the pocket, not rushing outside of it. Check. Your defense with J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones is clearly working because you're getting pressure on the opposing quarterback. Check. They turned the ball over once. Kyler Murray threw a pick. You can live with that. You're winning the game. And, they established the run. You look at this. Chase Edmonds, 12 carries, 63 yards. James Conner, 16 carries, 53 yards. Running back by committee. Neither guy's a stud back, but when you have a quarterback that is a threat to run, it's going to create more opportunities for your running game. For Edmonds, for Conner, where it's our RPO. Is Murray going to keep it? Is he going to give it to the back? And a linebacker is going to gamble either way, which will create more holes for these running backs and more yardage for them to pick up. But for the AFC South, it was a really bad weekend where the Colts, after the third quarter, the game was over. I really wasn't competitive after that third quarter. And the fourth quarter was just kind of a mail-in. This game, it was over by halftime. Tennessee just got punched in the mouth and they were against the ropes and they couldn't recover. And the Cardinals they acquired J.J. Watt. They went and got A.J. Green. They've made acquisitions to this team, and to their credit, they look good in week 1. Now, this is overreaction Monday. It's the first one of the season. Looking ahead for like Arizona, they got the Vikings. I'd be happy to play the Vikings in my second game because the Vikings lost to Cincinnati yesterday in overtime. For the Titans, you want to recover, you're going to Seattle. It's a really tough start. You crushed by Arizona, then you go to Seattle. Seattle's home opener with that 12th man. They're going to have a full crowd. It's going to be loud in there. And for teams like the Colts, go to the Rams. The Colts host the Rams. Still, the Rams are coming off a big victory last night. Matthew Stafford's debut. Not an easy go for the AFC South here, but you had LA Rams win yesterday. Arizona Cardinals won yesterday. San Francisco beat Detroit yesterday. And Seattle win yesterday. All 4 teams in the division get a win. They talk about being the toughest division in football. Checks out because all of them are 1-0, and that'll be a dogfight all year to see who will win this division and ultimately how many teams will make the postseason out of that loaded NFC West. The offseason story was Aaron Rodgers for all the wrong reasons. Him being a prima donna, playing about his contract, maybe he's retiring. And it was really smoke and mirrors. Adam Schefter really made the story more than what it was, but it just kept going and going. And I said, nothing's going to happen here. And nothing did. He returned it to Green Bay. But now he's like a chill surfer because he's got his man bun and he's all shooting the breeze and living in Green Bay with his man bun. And okay, you can be chill. You can have your man bun, but are you still going to play good quarterback? Is the team going to be good? And yesterday, they played the New Orleans Saints. First game for New Orleans without Drew Brees retiring. You can see him now on Sunday Night Football working for NBC. And it's Jameis Winston's show. He's the new starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And the game's in Jacksonville because of Hurricane Ida. And it was an emotional one for New Orleans for sure. And they clearly came out and had a determination to win this game that was so much greater than the Green Bay Packers. Because flat out, the Green Bay Packers got their ass kicked yesterday. 38-3 loss to New Orleans. And just to go through it, it's more than stats. But Aaron Rodgers went 15 for 28, 133 yards, 2 interceptions. He had 5 interceptions all of last year, 2 yesterday, and they're both bad. In the red zone, threw the ball behind Devontae Adams, intercepted, throws a deep ball. I don't know who the hell he was throwing the ball to. Double coverage. Marcus Williams picks it off. That was basically the day for him because they replaced him with Jordan Love, the first-round pick from a few years ago. He came in and played in garbage time. And they only ran the ball yesterday while Aaron Rodgers was in the game 8 times. That's not Green Bay football. You have Aaron Jones. He had 5 carries for 9 yards. A.J. Dillon, 4 carries for 19. It didn't make any sense. Devontae Adams, 5 receptions, 56 yards, but he was a non-factor in the game. Those were meaningless catches. Now we look at Jameis Winston. If you look at his yardage, you're like, oh, this is not that great of a day. 14 for 20, 148 yards. It's very pedestrian. That means you're checking it down quite often. You're not doing much. But what he did do is he didn't turn the ball over. That's check one. 30 interceptions in his last full season. One thing I noticed from Jameis way off the bat, he's thinner. He looks like he's lost some weight and he's quick. He ran the ball yesterday 6 times. In Tampa, he was a stationary quarterback. Now, he's not a burner. He's not going to run for 100 yards every game. But he scrambled, and his first drive, he had 3 first downs with his legs. So he's showing teams, I can do it. And he's also still a big man that's really tough to bring down, but he's got a little bit more speed. They got Alvin Kamara involved. Check. 20 carries, 83 yards yesterday. Tony Jones Jr. is another back that they had to release. Latavius Murray. He's number 2. He rushed the ball 11 carries, 50 yards. What was the most impressive thing about Jameis Winston to me? Red zone offense. He went 4 for 4 in the red zone, 4 touchdown passes, including 2 to Juwan Johnson, new receiver turned tight end, who's just a big target, threw a beautiful ball to him. Big, he's about 6'5" deep in the end zone, catches it with one hand, goes over the top of the defense. Throws another one to him later. Finds Alvin Kamara underneath. Kamara scores a touchdown. And we did see he also threw in a Chris Hogan, who was recently signed. And then we saw him later in the game. He still has that deep ball prowess. He throws a 55-yard strike to Deontay Harris for a touchdown. So he goes 14 for 20, 178, 5 touchdowns. And Sean Payton is a quarterback whisperer. And you think back to when Drew Brees got to New Orleans, nobody wanted him. San Diego, he was just an average quarterback. He was a BYU quarterback. They're not that great. Ask Casey Hill. BYU turned Purdue, but you get what I'm saying. He had his shoulder problems. They didn't know if he's going to be able to throw the ball anymore. But yet, Sean Payton, Miami wouldn't pass him in his physical. He goes to New Orleans, and Sean Payton says, come on, son, we can do this together. In 15 years, a Super Bowl, and he's the best player in franchise history and one of the best quarterbacks to ever lace up the cleats. But he was a reclamation project. He was not a made man whatsoever. And then you look at Cam Newton. His story is different, but not that much different. He was a first overall pick. But what was his Achilles heel? Turnovers. Had all the talent in the world, had a gun for an arm, but he liked to throw it to the other team. And Tampa Bay eventually said, enough of this. We're going to go to the guy who knows how to protect the ball better than any quarterback in the history of this league, Tom Brady. They win a Super Bowl. But Jameis is playing that Sean Payton system where if it's not there, check it down. You have one of the best receiving running backs in the game. I would say Kamara or Christian McCaffrey are 1-2 in that category. They can make guys miss. They're elusive. You can run them like a wide receiver. They're creative backs. And Jameis just spread the ball around. He ran the ball. And quite frankly, it's one game, but they look great. On defense, Aaron Rodgers couldn't escape, couldn't get throws. Marcus Davenport, Cam Jordan were all over him. That bodes well. Marcus Williams looks like a completely different player. He was part of that Minneapolis miracle where he read the play entirely wrong. Stephon Diggs caught the ball. He goes to the end zone. That was Marcus Williams' fault. That's what he's known for. But you got him back there. He's more confident. Malcolm Jenkins is back in New Orleans where he won his first Super Bowl. You have Marshawn Lattimore, who they took in the Mahomes draft. They did want to trade up and get Mahomes. They couldn't ultimately get there. But Lattimore is one of the best corners in football. And just after the game yesterday, they re-signed him to a contract. He's the highest paid cornerback in league history, close to $100 million in the deal, with close to $70 million guaranteed. So this team is good. I think you want to see. You still have Marquez Callaway, who looked good in the preseason. He didn't have a great game yesterday. He only had 1 catch. But to me, that's a good sign because Callaway is the most, Deontay Harris is a special teams player who they think can be a star on offense. Chris Hogan's a journeyman. Juwan Johnson, just another guy. Callaway has the most skill there. So you're throwing the ball to guys that you're hoping can, get some confidence and start to ball out. I love that for Jameis Winston. But yeah, I think it was just a great debut for Green Bay. I said yesterday, and I stand by it. I think Aaron Rodgers is under the most pressure of any player in the NFL and the Packers team as a whole. And you come out in the first game of the season after all this BS, after all the talk, and you lay an egg like that, it's just embarrassing. It was a joke of a game. It was over. And just looking at it, I don't know what the hell they were doing. I don't know what the game plan was. They were getting stops, punting the ball. The defense couldn't do anything to Jameis. They couldn't touch Jameis Winston. Za'Darius Smith, Preston Smith, the Smith brothers couldn't do nothing. That defense was Swiss cheese. Jared Alexander, Kevin King continues to be a liability at corner. And I just look at Aaron Rodgers and say, okay, big boy, you won the MVP last year. You're the cock of the walk. You think everybody thinks you're so special, which I do too. He's a great quarterback. And it's one game. But losing like the Cleveland Browns did and losing like the Green Bay Packers did are two very different things. And that is because of the score. That was not competitive. It was over. Where Cleveland was in it until the final minute. You saw promise. You didn't see anything. There's nothing from that game tape that Green Bay can take and say, we're really happy with that. Defense struggled. Aaron Rodgers, one of the worst games I've ever seen him play. And honestly, his demeanor with the media concerns me too, because it's so bro and lackadaisical. And well, it's just one. I just think it's one game, and having such a good time, and like this isn't summer camp. Like they refer to themselves as the last dance, which any team that does that isn't winning championships is stupid. It was the Bulls because they were actually winning. They were a dynasty. Green Bay's won the one Super Bowl in the last decade. So that's not the last dance. Aaron Rodgers, okay, go play for Denver then. It's not the last dance was Jordan's last season. Yes, he came back in 2002, but he was old man Michael then, smoking cigars and out of shape. And for me, it's just for Green Bay, you don't play till Monday, so you get an extra day off, but you got Detroit on Monday Night Football. And Detroit is not the best team in the world, but they showed some fight yesterday. They were down big to San Francisco. It was embarrassing. At the half, I think it was 35-10. They fought back. Jared Goff threw some strikes, forced a turnover, and it came down to the wire where they were close to winning the game, close to tying the game against the San Francisco 49ers yesterday. So don't take this team for granted, because I think they just saw New Orleans and said, oh, Drew isn't over there. It's Jameis and a bunch of cast-offs. No Michael Thomas. We'll just take care of business here. Well, we'll see how that played out for them. And that division is also a tire fire because you have Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota all at 0-1 after week 1. So Green Bay heads to Detroit Monday night, but I stand by it. Aaron Rodgers is under a ton of pressure, and after that performance, it's only been magnified. What do you got next week? You're going to be playing a game that you're expected to win. And not only they need to come out next week and not only just win the game, but they need to dominate that game. It's a divisional game. It's in Detroit early in the season. Set the record straight. Because even if you just eke out a win, the narrative will grow that this Green Bay team, they're not that committed. Aaron Rodgers is not that committed to playing. And maybe that's unfair, which it probably is. And it can be put to bed rather quickly this season. But I know the media. I read enough stuff. They will jump on a story quicker than you even can think of something that will go wrong. And that'll be the narrative very, very early into the season. But credit to New Orleans. They play Carolina next week. Carolina won their opener. Sam Darnold won his opener with the Panthers, beating his former team, the Jets. But I mentioned this. I think New Orleans is going to be a decent team. I think Jameis is a good quarterback. He just needed to harness all that great things he has and just show that on film and not bring out all the negative attributes that he has, turning the ball over and just decision making. So if he can bring out those great attributes of his game, that bodes well for the New Orleans Saints to have a really good season under Sean Payton with Jameis Winston at the helm. The 2:00 game of the day for me was the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Buffalo starting this game with, big expectations, making it to the AFC Championship game last year. Josh Allen finishing second in MVP voting. You have, just a team that Stephon Diggs, Colby, you had a great team, and they're coming back. Sean McDermott. And then you got the Pittsburgh Steelers on the other side, who Big Ben returned. He's coming back for an 18th season. That was a question mark at the end of the year. He took money off his salary to come back. They have a similar cast, completely new offensive line, new offensive coordinator in Matt Canada. And early in the game, it was hard to watch because both teams were terrible. Josh Allen, who was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL last year, was just god-awful. He couldn't find anybody. He was overthrowing guys. He was underthrowing guys. And it was just Josh Allen being a mess. For his day, he goes 30 for 51, 58% completion. That's just not good enough. And that's really bad. That's Josh Allen of his rookie season. And just some of the decisions yesterday. They go for it on 4th down twice, and both plays were not even close to being completed. Josh Allen bounces one to Stephon Diggs. Then another running play. They can't even get the ball snapped correctly. And then the idiotic play of the game. It's a 4th and 1. You have Josh Allen in at quarterback. He's a raging bull. Just do a quarterback sneak. You're still winning the game at this point. But he throws it behind the line of scrimmage to Devin Singletary. But the defense was all over. He's 5 yards to get the first down. He doesn't even move an inch. He's tackled instantly. And it made no sense. Idiotic play by Josh Allen and the offense from Brian Daboll. And the whole day was just out of sync. So that play happens. It turns into a Pittsburgh touchdown. Deontay Johnson gets a touchdown for the Steelers. Next Buffalo drive, 3-and-out. Pittsburgh blocks a punt, returns it for a touchdown. That's ball game. 3-0, then a block punt. So bad special teams play becomes 20-10. They get a late touchdown, but Pittsburgh goes into Buffalo and wins the game 23-16. And Pittsburgh didn't play well. Ben didn't look great. Receivers continue to struggle. Claypool dropped a few passes. And what's tough to read for me is, did the Pittsburgh defense play good yesterday? I think certain times I thought, okay, this defense looks really good. Sutton in the secondary, he was all over the football yesterday. Minka Fitzpatrick was laying people out. And early in the first half, you had Cam Hayward force a fumble that Josh Allen scooped up. Then TJ Watt forced another fumble that Pittsburgh did recover, but resulted in no points. So, but there was too many times where I'm just like, well, Josh Allen's doing so many stupid things right now. They can't pick up 5 yards to save their lives. I don't really think this is the Pittsburgh defense. This is just incompetence of the Bills. And so that's a tough one to read for me. But I do give the Steelers credit. You find a way to win the game. After a bad play, you get a turnover. You know what you do? You capitalize on it. So the turnover on downs, that leads to a touchdown. Then you block a punt. Again, a special teams play. Same sort of thing in the Cleveland game, except Pittsburgh has the good fortune. They block a punt, picks it up, runs it in the end zone. And that's essentially the game. So you get a turnover on downs, you capitalize on. You block a punt, you score a touchdown. Otherwise, maybe the game goes into overtime and it's probably going to be hard to watch because both offenses were pretty terrible. But one thing Pittsburgh can say is they have that killer instinct. Ben Roethlisberger is in year 18. He's not what he used to be. However, When it comes to clutch situations, experience cannot be overlooked. And after that turnover on downs, it's in the fourth quarter, he was surgical. Big play to Claypool for 22 yards. He goes over the top, big catch. Finds Eric Ebron on a third down. Deontay Johnson finds his way into the end zone. And that's just what he does. And in that first half, I don't think he played well at all. He was under some pressure, not a whole lot, but again, he wasn't that great. He goes 18 for 32 for 138. Najee Harris couldn't establish the running game. So there still is a lot of question marks about Pittsburgh because the running game had nothing. And one thing that they didn't do last year that they need to do, Matt Canada needs to start doing more, is just motion. And what I mean is just players moving in motion before the snap. Whether it's Claypool, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, they have a lot of speed at the receiver position. Use those guys in motion. Keep giving end-around runs to Chase Claypool. Screens. Just get the ball, get the ball in the hands of skilled players. Najee Harris, he's a rookie. He didn't have a great game yesterday. 16 carries, 45 yards. That's a 2-yard average. That's terrible. But it was his first game. The Buffalo defense wasn't bad. It was pretty good yesterday. And he'll get better. He was great at Alabama. He's got a lot of potential. He only had one catch for 4 yards as well. But we got to see what this team can do. For Pittsburgh, there's still a lot of questions. For Buffalo, it looks that was as bad as they could have played in week one. And I do love Josh Allen as a quarterback, but yesterday was rookie season, just deer in the headlights. What the hell am I doing out here? Looking ahead, for the Steelers, they will host the Raiders. The Raiders are playing tonight on Monday Night Football, so they'll get the Raiders on a short week in their home opener. I'll gauge that game better after I see the Raiders play tonight against Baltimore, but not a bad option. For the Bills, they head to Miami. And this can be one of two ways. Number one, it's going to be a test, but it also can put Buffalo right back on the map because you're going to Miami, who beat New England yesterday. And quite frankly, I think New England is a better team than Miami Dolphins. I think Mac Jones already is a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa. But the Miami Dolphins, and I told Adam this yesterday, but he didn't want to listen to me, defense can still win games in this league. Yesterday, Tua, Mac, they were just okay. Mac, I thought in the late third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, showed why New England drafted him. Making clutch third down grabs, throwing it to Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne getting open, tight ends on third down. That was impressive to me. And, he doesn't throw an interception, 29 for 39, 281. He had a really good first game. And I think he reads the ball really well. But I look at Miami. Tua was okay. They're in the game. He's throwing a touchdown pass to Jalen Waddle, the rookie. But he's under pressure. He throws the ball in the air, deflects off a hand, goes through, hits Gesicki right in the chest, which is then intercepted by New England. Normally, that's ball game. New England gets an interception down 1 with just over 5 minutes to play. But with 3:06 to play, Miami forces a fumble. And they recover the football. And I'll give Tua this. He has 3:06. He needs a few first downs to get the win. He gets them. They run the ball, but he threw the ball a few times in clutch moments. He went to Devontae Parker when he needed him. You look, Mike Gesicki, who's one of the best tight ends in football, did not have a catch yesterday, did not have a target. But Devontae Parker went 4 for 41, Jalen Waddle 4 for 61. He did what he had to do. It's still, I'm still not sold on Tua whatsoever, but you have a pathetic performance from the Bills. Now they go to Miami. They're on the road, and they have to go try to win in Miami in September, where it's going to be hot. It's a difficult place to play for teams like the Patriots, the Bills, and the Jets with their climate. So defense can still win. A 17-16 game where both quarterbacks are just efficient but not over the top, and a defensive play won the game yesterday. That punch out, that fumble won Miami the game. And to their credit, they walk away with the victory. And I like Tua, but I'm still not sold on him. I don't think what I've seen so far, I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He does have some good attributes. He's got some speed. He can break away. They're trying to incorporate Myles Gaskin. For the Patriots, that's got to be frustrating because the biggest knock I can give to Mac yesterday is cap off drives. Throw the ball down the field, but too often it ended in a Nick Folk field goal. 3 times they had to settle for Nick Folk field goals where you had touchdowns for Miami. And Miami had 2 touchdowns. New England only had 1 yesterday. And that's ultimately the game because you have Waddle getting a touchdown, Tua ran for a touchdown. You had Nick Folk, 3 field goals. You can't have 3 field goals, and ultimately that costs them the game. But Dolphins get the win. You get the Patriots. Mac Jones will look to get his first win against fellow rookie quarterback and division rival Zach Wilson and New York Jets next week. So that'll be two division games next week in the AFC East as we see the Bills head to Miami and then the Patriots head to MetLife Stadium. But so that's interesting. We'll see. Buffalo really couldn't have been worse, and we'll see if they can rebound from that embarrassing showing yesterday. Another interesting note, there's always injuries in football, especially week 1. We heard today the former number 3 overall pick from 2 years ago from Detroit, their cornerback Jeff Okudah tore his Achilles tendon. He is out for the season. So big loss for Detroit at the corner position. And they don't have a whole lot of expectations, but at the same time, you're hoping this guy can develop into a corner like Xavier Howard, like Jalen Ramsey, and doesn't sound like he's going to be back. Ryan Fitzpatrick of the Washington football team, their starting quarterback, was injured in the game. He only threw 6 passes yesterday. He's going on the injured reserve with a hip injury. And it's right now it's Taylor Heineke taking over the reins as starting quarterback. He started the playoff game last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, played his heart out. They gave him a contract extension, and now with Fitzpatrick out at least 3 weeks, Ron Rivera already said because Washington's on a short week, they play the Giants on Thursday Night Football. He will get the start. And they addressed it. Cam Newton is not going to be walking through the door. Robert Griffin III is not walking through the door. Kyle Allen is the backup quarterback who Rivera had in Carolina. He's sticking with the guys that he knows. And I don't mind Heineke. He played well in that playoff game. It's his 10th career start. They battled against the Chargers yesterday, but ultimately Justin Herbert and that team came out on top. And the defense played okay for the Chargers. I think Chargers look good in that game. I especially love seeing Rashawn Slater, the new guard, play very well against Chase Young and protect Justin Herbert. But now you got Washington on a short week with Heineke. They're already 0-1. And just looking ahead, you got the Giants who are 0-1. They get smoked by the Broncos at home yesterday. And they're already in panic mode in New York because Daniel Jones is not the guy. They don't think. Saquon Barkley looked very average yesterday. The defense wasn't exactly stellar with Teddy Bridgewater throwing the ball over the field. So now, what can Heineke do? I think the question, whether Rivera likes it or not for the next few weeks, is if Heineke struggles Thursday night, is Cam Newton the guy? He had Cam in Carolina. He knows what he's all about. They went to a Super Bowl together. It makes sense that Cam Newton would get a look from Washington, but I think we'll get a better gauge of that after Thursday night. If Heineke struggles, then I think you got to consider it because Cam Newton is a better quarterback than Taylor Heineke right now. I really don't care. And for Washington, you have such a great defense. You added Curtis Samuel. You have Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas. but you only had Ryan Fitzpatrick as your quarterback to start. He's 38 years old. I think this team has a lot of potential and great players, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's not a playoff quarterback. He's never made the playoffs in his 17-year career. So this is just frustrating for me. I just look at it and say, so he's out. Now you have Heineke, who had one great game, but it was a great playoff game. Yeah, no doubt about it. He balled out, but that's a one-game sample size. But what it does do is it makes this Thursday night game that more compelling because both teams are 0-1. You're looking at the Giants. Can they take a step this year after a pathetic game one? They don't have long to sit on this. Washington lost at home to the Chargers. Giants lost at home to the Denver Broncos. Now you go Thursday night from Washington. So Giants will travel to Washington on a short week. We'll see what they can do. But if I'm a Washington football team fan, I want to look at Cam Newton because he gives me a better chance to win right now than Taylor Heineke. That's just a fact. And in that division, Philly's 1-0. I was not sold on Philly, and again, I'm still not completely sold on them. I'm not going to be overreaction Monday to one victory because I believe Atlanta is pretty pathetic. I think we proved that yesterday where they had 6 points the entire game. Matt Ryan didn't look great. They didn't have much on offense. Their defense continues to struggle. And Arthur Smith had great success with Ryan Tannehill. Remains to be seen what will be done with Matt Ryan in Atlanta. And they could be looking for a new quarterback as soon as after this season when they can cut Matt Ryan and save a lot on their cap. So, but you got the Eagles in first with the Cowboys, the G-Men, and Washington all at 0-1. And Jalen Hurts looked great yesterday. He's running the football, throwing the ball confidently, throwing a touchdown pass to Devontae Smith. And, you talk about rookies yesterday. You had Devontae Smith, the former Heisman Trophy winner, catch his first touchdown pass in the NFL. You had Justin Fields, who sprinkled into the Bears game plan last night. He ran in a rushing touchdown last night. He had his first touchdown. Trey Lance threw a 5-yard touchdown to Sherfield for the San Francisco 49ers. He sprinkled in on plays. Zach Wilson threw 2 touchdowns in his debut, both to Corey Davis. Played quite well in the second half after struggling the first half against Carolina. And then Trevor Lawrence in a loss throws 2 touchdown passes. His first career touchdown pass was to tight end Chris Manhertz. And Jalen Waddle caught a touchdown yesterday for Miami, the rookie. So it was a great day for rookie players who are making an impact early and often. You look at Chicago last night. Andy Dalton is a backup quarterback now. Played Cincinnati for 9 years, made the playoffs 5 times, never won a playoff game. He's average quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. I was just so frustrated. If I'm Allen Robinson, if I'm David Montgomery, I want to compete. We just seen Green Bay get their ass kicked. Detroit stinks. Minnesota lost to Cincinnati, who have picked in the top 3 the last 2 years. Why can't we make the playoffs out of this division? Why can't we compete? Yet you're hindering our chances of doing that by playing the second best quarterback on our roster. Justin Fields needs to play. Yes, he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes, but who cares? You're going nowhere with Andy Dalton. They're playing Cincinnati next week. I'm not convinced they win that game with Andy Dalton. I'm not saying Cincinnati are world beaters, but Joe Burrow looked good yesterday coming off major knee surgery. Jamar Chase, who couldn't see, who also caught a touchdown, another rookie who caught a touchdown yesterday. He had a big game, almost 100 yards through the air. Joe Mixon, their defense can make plays. They really address that in the offseason, paying big money to guys like Trey Hendrickson to come over. And it's just Dalton has checked down Andy. He's not going to take a chance. He's not going to do anything spectacular. Last night he goes 27-38. Yeah, great. Yes, played a bunch of passes. 206 yards. You lost by 20. Now, that's not all on him because their defense was pathetic last night. Normally a great defense. That the first pass by Stafford to Van Jefferson, I don't know what the hell was going on in that play. They just let him. He caught the ball. He was on the ground. They just said go touch him. They didn't. He scrambles, gets up, runs it in for a touchdown. Crazy. And they had two huge touchdowns where Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson were wide open. And that's credit to Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford as well, using the bootlegs, using that creative offense. But it was ugly for Chicago last night. And if I'm a player, Justin Fields should start next week, not Andy Dalton. He should have started in week 1, which makes so much less sense to pull him after one game, which I'm sure Matt Nagy won't, because he won't want to bruise his ego. And he's probably thinking, well, we got Andy Dalton. We're playing Cincinnati. We should get this game. Well, good luck, buddy, because I'm not convinced you get that win. Then you're 0-2, and you know you're going back to Chicago, and you're going to hear it. They're playing at home this week. They're going to hear Justin Fields is going to get a chance either way. But if somehow they lose this game, they have the Cleveland Browns in week 3. They're not winning that game. Pencil that one in now. They'll go home and play the Lions in week 4. There's no way Justin Fields isn't starting. So just stop delaying the inevitable. Just put him in now. I want to watch him play. I don't care about Andy Dalton. But also, not just for my selfish reasons, he's the better quarterback. And the Rams look good. One half my sleeper Super Bowl pick. The Rams look great last night. They got the Colts next week, so a tougher test with the better defense with Darius Leonard, DeForest Buckner coming after them. But great week 1. Like I said, Wednesday shows, we'll talk about the week's information. So we have a lot of baseball between that. We'll talk about the Monday Night Football game, which is Raiders Ravens tonight, live from Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll see what Lamar Jackson brings to the table, Derek Carr, and another season with Chucky the Doll, aka John Gruden. But I'll talk about Leilani Fernandez on Wednesday, her run that was stopped short by Emma Radonsku. Talk about Novak Djokovic losing the final at the U.S. Open. We'll talk some baseball, any other big headlines we have over the course of the week, we're going to touch on. Thursday night, I'm doing a podcast with Ben Murray. He joined me lots last year in the NFL season. And we'll talk about college football. We're going to talk about the NFL, preview week 2. So that should be a lot of fun. That'll be on Thursday night, and lots more coverage throughout the week as we go through here. Also, a couple injuries for you in the show. 49ers starting running back Raheem Mostert, who is constantly injured, out 8 weeks. That would normally concern me, but San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan's the best coordinator / head coach to ever run the football, in my opinion. It's next man up. Trey Sermon should be back, the rookie from Ohio State. They got Mitchell at running back. They have some guys. And also Mekhi Becton, who is one of the best left tackles in football for the Jets. Their offensive line already is not that great. He's out 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury. And that is worrisome for the health and safety of rookie Zach Wilson. But we'll keep an eye on that as we go. But everybody, thanks for joining me on this Monday. Mondays are going to be fun on this show. It's always fun breaking things down in the world of football. But I'll be back tomorrow with Seamus. We'll talk about season 4, episode 1 of Breaking Bad. And in the second half of the podcast, we'll talk about the NHL free agency regarding the Pacific Division. So have a great Monday, everybody. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk soon.